Hello from Mexico City to this episode of Crossing Borders with Nathan Lustig, where I have conversations with entrepreneurs doing business across borders and the people who support them, with a focus on those with some connection to Latin America. This episode is brought to you by latamlist.com. If you like this podcast, you'll enjoy Latamlist's daily tech news reporting. Sign up for the mailing list to get weekly email updates. My guest today is Victor Santos, the Sao Paulo-based founder of Liv Up, a direct-to-consumer healthy food brand based in Brazil that takes local Brazilian ingredients and makes them into high-quality, healthy food that gets delivered to your door. We cover how Victor decided to leave his job in finance when he was making more money in his first year than his uncles were making on their jobs that they'd worked in all their life, how he got the business off the ground, and how he's been able to raise $10 million in venture capital from some of the top VCs in Latin America, including Kaszek Ventures. We also talk about what it's like doing business in Brazil, the opportunities and challenges of the market, and why more entrepreneurs and investors should be looking at the Brazilian market. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Victor Santos. Hey Victor, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being willing to do it.
Hey, thank you so much for the opportunity.
No, of course. So where are you in the world today?
I'm in Liv Up's office in Sao Paulo, Brazil.
And what are you working on? What's your business do?
We are a direct-to-consumer healthy food brand. We are a three and a half year old company living in a really exciting moment here in Brazil.
So what kind of food are you delivering to consumers?
Well, our brand is all based on how we can bring real food to people. So we only cook with natural ingredients, we source from local producers, and prioritize organic ingredients. So that's the whole ingredient identity that's all about.
Yeah, and Brazil has amazing raw materials for food, and I'm sure, like when I'm in Brazil and looking at what's for order on iFood or on Rappi or one of the others, a lot of the times you see stuff that's not so healthy and it's lots of processed food. So are you trying to be kind of the alternative to that?
Exactly. That's why actually I started the business. It came out of a personal need to really like eat healthier on this crazy lifestyle that we are all end up in the metropolitan areas. So, due to a personal need, I came up with the idea and linking that with the access to really awesome ingredients that we have here in Brazil. I was really questioning myself, why don't we deserve like better food and how we can we deliver that? And that's how we Enrique and I, who's my co-founder, we came up with the business model. We came up with the whole company, and now we are like serving lots of people here in Brazil, providing like easier and a more convenient approach to eating better during their routines.
More or less, how many cities and how many people are using your product?
Right now, we are in 10 different metropolitan areas in Brazil, so it's should be something like 20 cities, and we have over 20,000 clients every month.
Awesome. Well, I want to jump back into you first to hear a little bit more about your story, and then we'll go deeper into the business. So, where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Sao Paulo. Actually, I'm from like the suburbs of Sao Paulo. It's a small city, and for college, I came to Sao Paulo city, and here I graduated. I'm working my whole life here.
So, when you say the suburbs, people that maybe don't know Brazil well will think, oh, maybe it's a smallish city with some suburbs like in the U.S. But tell me a little bit explain the size of Sao Paulo and just how big of a city it is.
You are like São Paulo city. It's like a 15 million inhabitant city, and if you take all the cities around it, you get 25 million people living in the same area. Like actually, as you said, even though we have like multiple cities near each other, like when you cross from São Paulo to São Caetano, which is the city I came from, you don't even recognize you are chain cities because it's all that connected. It's a big place with tons of people connected.
So, when you were growing up, did you know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur, or was that something that came up just in your career path?
It came up with my career path. I always had a desire to do something that impact tons of people. But honestly, when I was a teenager, I didn't consider being an entrepreneur as a career path. I think that's one of the things that it's really changing here in Brazil and Latin America. So we can see like we have more examples. We have like people succeeding and leading the way for us to do it either. And like that came up through college when I was exposed to other people like being entrepreneurs, like creating business, and I was like, whoa, that's really interesting, and I might also do it. And actually, when I jump in the market and start like working for investment banking, I was like, man, maybe this is not for me. And being entrepreneur was really like popping up in my head as a hell of opportunity.
And what were you doing before you were an entrepreneur? What was your jobs?
Okay, so I was working in investment banking. I actually worked 1 year and a half after college on that, but it was a short period of time. And actually, as soon as I got my first bonus, I could like really kick off the project of Liv Up. I had the idea. I needed some money to start a business, and after I got my first bonus, I started that.
I think there's been 6 or 7 different entrepreneurs on the podcast that had worked in finance, waited for the bonus to come in, and then went to start their own company. And in many of the cases, their friends and family said, "You're crazy. You're going to start a company when you have one of the best jobs that you can have in the country." What kind of reaction did you get from your friends and family when you decided to start the business?
Well, that's a really, really interesting question because that's the point. Like, no one understood it. It was like, why are you risking all of your career and you're making good money now? Like, why do you need that? And it's funny because if you compare with my family, we are like a middle class family in Brazil, and I was already making more money than most of my uncles and even my friends from high school. So it's really came up on the personal level on which I was asking myself like what's the impact that I Victor I have in the world and especially here in Brazil and Latin America, and I just explained to them like the potential that I and the company had to really change an industry and to really like make an impact in tons of people. We are still on the 20,000 people in a month being impacted by our business, but I believe soon we can get to the millions.
And going back about 3, 4 years when you were starting the business, what was the entrepreneurial ecosystem like in Brazil? What was just the general kind of feeling in the economy back in 2015?
It's crazy. So I quit my job in July 2015. So it's been actually it will be 4 years next week. And what's really really interesting was that back then, the president Dilma Rousseff, she was being impeached. So the FX rate was just like going nuts, really really crazy time. People were really depressed with like the economy was shitty. People were like in a really pessimistic way viewing that what was going on in the country, and it wasn't the right time to maybe it wasn't the right time to start a business, but I really believe in the market opportunity, and especially for food, like we will always be eating. And I I saw the fundamentals and I decided to start the business anyway. It has been a really good decision. So we started business in we launched the business in March 2016, and since then we are growing like 3 4 times year over year. So really really nice growth.
So you have the idea to make an impact in Brazil. You have the problem of having not the best food coming delivered to your house. What's the first step to get a business like this off the ground? How did you get going?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and that was the point that really helped the background of Enrique and myself. So Enrique was working in consulting, I was working in investment banking. We really put a lot of effort on really planning well all the steps of the company. So we are a direct consumer business. We run operations, so we have an industrial kitchen, a production facility, distribution centers. So we really mapped like all the process and really thought about like all the assumptions that we're having in our models, and that was like the base for us to really start the business in a organized way because there's so many touch points with operations, so many touch points with consumers, and we really want to nail that. And that was how like we really started. So thinking about the customer experience, think about the product, but also connecting that with reality on like how we will make that really happen, you know. So we started in a really small facility, like 100 square meters in Sao Paulo. So half of a squash court, we moved it like 1 year later to a basketball court size facility. And now we are running a soccer field size facility making our meals. So really exciting on how the business is growing and like things are getting bigger.
So when you were first getting started, I mean, not even today, it's a very complex business where you have to get the inputs for the food, you have to make the food, and then you have to take the orders and make sure that it gets there on time and there's no problems with deliveries. How did you start from a small scale doing that? Did you and your team make the deliveries personally? Did you make the food all by yourself? Like, what did it look like when you're on the half a squash court?
Oh, perfect. So yeah, we really try to break a big and more complex problem in smaller problems to for us to solve. So we were running production, and we were running how we do the roading, but we hired a third party logistics partner to do the deliveries. So that really helped us to scale. So it's the traditional should I make or buy problem. So things that were core and things that are core for the company, we keep in house, and things that we can outsource with great partners, we can do that. One thing that we are paranoid is to controlling the sales channel and to control the experience that we are providing to our customers. And if we can plug in like some partners on to enhance that, we will definitely do it.
How did you decide what food to offer? And were some of the original things that you offered all the way back 3 years ago still popular on the site today?
Well, yeah, that's interesting. We now offer roughly like 80 different SKUs on our meal portfolio. Now we are in different categories like snacks, spreadables, and so on. But like focusing on the meals category, we still have some SKUs that we came up on the early days. Of course, they were improved across time, but we definitely renew a lot our portfolio. And the beauty on how we are like creating the business and the beauty of this business model is that we're really like we are creating the kind of co-creating the brand and the portfolio with consumers. So as people are purchasing our products in our platform, and we have an open innovation and open creation model with customers, we are always like asking for the feedback. We are creating the channels for customers providing us their inputs. So we get tons of feedbacks on which recipe we should like twist something, or I get some examples, real examples here. Like we got a point in time that our customers were, whoa, that fish, it could be a little bit more juicy. And when you get like that feedback from multiple customers, our chefs can really improve that in our recipes. So we were like enhancing the quality of our portfolio, even the items that we had like 3 years ago. But we are of course like launching at least 10 new items like every single month, and we are doing that always like based on customer feedback.
So food and buying for stuff and e-commerce can be capital intensive. How did you think about getting money to grow the business?
I think it all goes back to fundamentals, and maybe that's one of the main opportunities that we do have now in Latin America. So we really create a business, and we are growing a business that has really solid fundamentals, and like in the P&L perspective, or in the terms, or in like return on equity perspective. So even though we are a tech enabled business, like making meals and making beverage and so on, we can show to our investors, and we can show the market that there's a tremendous opportunity, and we can really be more efficient than traditional players. So it's really like looking that big market and that big old brands that are not connected with consumers right now, and we showing them the market on how we can make it better, and how we can really make consumers connect the brand with consumers on right now.
And how much have you raised so far? And what was that process like talking to the different investors and choosing who you chose?
So far we raised roughly $10 million, and we started with our own money and also with some funds from family and friends. In 2017, we got backed by Kaszek Ventures, and they have been really partners of the company and supporting our growth. In 2018, we raised another round, and I think it's all about the fundamentals, and it's all about like reaching the right milestones, setting the right growth path, and showing that there's a big market around there to be taken. And that's the whole process. Like it's communicating well what we want to achieve, and like after a couple of months, getting back to those investors and showing that you walk the talk, and that's the type of like path that we are taking, and really excited with what's coming next.
What's the Brazilian tech ecosystem like today?
Well, the ecosystem today is so phenomenal. Like it's crazy to see like how many new entrepreneurs are uh, starting new ventures, starting new business. How much more capital is available now for new ideas. I think it's a really positive moment for the Brazilian entrepreneurs, because you have the interest rates like going down. You start to have like people more optimistic with the economy. You have more venture capital players, and you have more entrepreneurs joining the ecosystem. And sometimes like as you have like more entrepreneurs and more startups joining the ecosystem can support itself. So it's a really like virtual cycle. And as I was telling a friend these days, like it's a really great time to be entrepreneur in Latin America and in Brazil.
And what advice would you give to other people that are maybe still working in a corporate job and thinking about taking the jump to start a business in Brazil?
Interesting question. I believe there's tons of myths around like the startup world and being the entrepreneur. There's like there's it's clear that we are living in an age that there's capital, there's people, and above all, there's consumer interest in testing and buying new stuff. So it's such a positive environment to create new things, and I believe people should really take like a more rational approach. At the end of the day, you must have the passion, you must have the drive to make things happen. But if you put things on paper and think about the opportunity that we have to really change industry and impact tons of people, starting a company and joining a startup, it's such a nice move. Like it's so fulfilling. I can't see myself like without doing that for my career.
And for people that maybe don't know the Brazilian market very well, what are some of the most surprising things, both good and bad, about doing business in Brazil?
So it's a double-edged sword in terms that you do have like some issues here, like bureaucracy mainly, and some issues to the business on the others. And you have like industries that are not as developed as in other countries. However, like this creates tons of opportunities to create new business. So I can give you one example from where I stand. Like if you take the food service, so the restaurant business in Brazil, only 2% of stores are chained stores. So the Subways, the McDonald's, or like and other types of restaurants, if you take that, and they provide 8% of the revenue from the food service market in Brazil. If you compare that with the US, you have 54% of sales going from chained stores. So it gives you a sense on how the country is still like not as developed as we would like, but like someone must bring us to the next level, and that's a lot of opportunities. And I'm just talking about the food service market, and like you can go to so many industries and see opportunities like that. So really exciting moment to be an entrepreneur here in Brazil.
That really is an incredible stat. It's a huge room for growth.
Exactly. And like you can see guys like looking at opportunities like that, banking space, in the health space, and so many industries that I think it's all about really like looking for a big pain from the consumer side and starting a new business.
If you could go back to the day that you quit your job to start the business, knowing everything that you know today, what advice would you give yourself?
Well, that's a deep question. Probably to get the money and bring more people than I was initially planning. I mean that because when we started the company, we didn't have access to that much capital, and our team was really like doing so multiple jobs, and it was really crazy back then. And I would like to have more people in our early days and scale a business in a more controlled sense. And I think that's one of the key things that I will do.
What blogs, books, podcasts, or documentaries do you like to recommend to people, whether about entrepreneurship or just life in general?
I really love books, and for me, they have been the biggest source of inspiration for what we are creating here and how crazy can we dream. So I do love and recommend the Shoe Dog, the Nike book. Also, for all those entrepreneurs that are looking for a really compelling way to lead their team, there's a book called Leading with the Heart from Coach K that I really appreciated reading. So I recommend that for sure.
What's next for you in the business?
Keep growing at least 3 times year over year, reaching more people, going for new categories, going for new cities, and hopeful 2 years from now we can reach at least 1 million people per month. I think that's our main goal right now.
Awesome. Well, it's going to be fun to watch you guys continue to grow. And the next time I'm in Brazil, I'm definitely going to order some food and test out the product.
Sure. I would love that.
All right. Well, thanks for doing it and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Bye bye.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of Crossing Borders with my guest, Victor Santos, co-founder of Liv Up. If you like the podcast, please share it with a friend and give us a rating on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks to Angel, Sofia, and Josefina for helping produce the podcast and writing the show notes. And thanks for you for listening. Have a great rest of your day.